good afternoon, and I will do my best to add something to what Eric mentioned in the beginning. The two distinguished professors took us to the world of the infinitely big and then to the infinitely small and took us back. What I would like to do is to give you a different way of looking at things that you, in your everyday today life, you do, in the way of looking at these things, how they architecture. And this presentation has been put under the headline of change. And it's true that when we look around, when we have friends, at least in the business I do, the common vague perception is that things are changing so fast. Things are not the way they are, regardless of the value judgment on that. And some people look at this with some nostalgia. I just came yesterday from one of the major congresses on mobile in Barcelona. And a lot of thinking, a lot of ideas were thrown, and some people feel this with a little bit of regret. So let's just remember that change is not something new. Actually, the world never stops changing. And recently, in the last 50 years, we moved from the world of the Industrial Revolution with keywords like labor, land, capital, manufacturing, to another world, to the world of information society. And without even feeling it, the keywords we are using more every day are changing. Now we speak about creativity, brain power, digitized societies, digitized information, globalization. So this shift is happening. Actually, it's the speed of change that determines the way we perceive it, because change is evolution. This is part of our DNA. We are born as children, and then we grow, and we absorb this. This is something we factor. Now, when change becomes a little bit more rapid, we feel it as something, as a disturbance. And when we are on a plane, and when the plane changes altitude a little bit quickly, the pilot feels obliged to tell us we are going in a zone of turbulence, because we will feel a little bit uncomfortable, then we enter. Now, when change started, as Eric mentioned, to completely disturb the way we do things, then we feel it as crisis. Then we feel it as something that is out of the zoological territory as we are used to determine in its boundaries. And this is what's happening. Now, let's not elaborate on that. What I would like is that it starts with, it's about technology. Although change are driven by technological advances, because someone found a way of doing things or having a technology and doing things differently. But it's not that matters. What matters is that the technology is creating new capabilities. All of a sudden, in my life, I started to be able to make phone calls and to talk to someone while I was on the move. And this was something, the mobility was something great, something that enabled us to do a lot of things, something that all of a sudden transformed everything we do. Now, there is in this room some people who are young enough to not having a clear memory of what was life before mobile. But I can assure you that we hardly can remember how we used to do things, and I'm inviting you to just imagine how you were doing things. Now, new capabilities means new behaviors. I can now my life is shaped differently because I can do things differently. And that is creating new business players, because I do things differently. People, companies figured out how to address my need. And new business players emerged because they are serving these capabilities. They are serving this new behavior that I'm having. That is driving to new business models that we are seeing. This is what Eric was referring to when he was saying we all have to reinvent our industries. And I will elaborate a little bit on that. New flows, and dare I say, I believe strongly we are witnessing new civilization models. Now, in order to see this, I would like to invite you to watch with me a 1-minute YouTube video about a little girl. For the simplicity of the story, let's call her Jennifer, because we will see Jennifer later on and see how deep is the impact of this change and this transformation. Jennifer is replicating the same gests that she's having. Jennifer is only used now to this way of interacting. And she's pressing where the home button on an iPad is, by coincidence. The finger does work. But this is where she loses patience. Steve Jobs has coded a part of her OS. I think this is, Jennifer is a digital native. Jennifer, and like some of my kids, I'm blessed to have 5 children aging from 23 to 8. Some of them have been born in a world where they only knew the capability of using mobiles, the capability of using the internet. And we will see how this is determinant to everything they do. Now, we might think Jennifer is thrown into a word. Let's see what happens in this word. And I'm inviting you to see with me just few numbers. It's not, numbers don't count. It's just the order of magnitude. Numbers are not important because, believe me, as soon as the slide is printed, this number is already outdated. In 1 minute on the internet, you have 204 million emails that are sent. You have 1.3 million videos that are viewed on YouTube. But on the other hand, you have 30 hours of video that are uploaded. And this is the fundamental dimension of this talk, is that you are now the actors of what's going on in this universe. 30 hours a video a minute. That means that in just a few weeks, you have a production that is bigger than everything that Hollywood and Bollywood together produced in their entire history in just few weeks. Every minute, you have 1 million tweets that are exchanged. Imagine, just imagine the interaction. And just to give you a number that is going to challenge everything we do, Eric and I, Ericsson and telecom operators, media players, media companies, it is estimated that in 2015, it will take you 5 years if you want to watch all the video that is crossing internet networks in just 1 second. So imagine what this will call in terms of transformation of the business model that we are, the different business models we are living. Now, I would like to dare saying that actually this story with its component is something as old as civilization itself. The pace of it is changing, but it's something that is in its architecture very conventional. you have transport means. And it's not a coincidence that cities, civilization, existed and developed along natural ways of communication between mankind. It's not a coincidence that we speak about civilization along rivers, along the shores of oceans, along the routes and valleys between mountains, because of the capacity of mankind to be able to communicate, to be able to transport. And like we transport, like we cut trees in the woods, we move them on rivers, and then we make from these things that contribute in the experience and the lifestyle that we live. Along that line, we are now transporting different type of content and taking this type of content for different applications. On the content side, you will see all the companies working in the press, cinema, music industries, organized since decades and decades with a logic of production, a logic of packaging. And this content goes in a channel. In this channel, and here you find the telecom companies, here you find the telecom providers of equipment, here on that part of the chain, you find the broadcasters, you find the TV networks, etc., with a logic of access, a logic of distribution. And then at the end, it goes through appliances. These are mobile phones, TVs, old faxes, telexes years back, gaming device, digital cameras today. The president of Sony said that at the end of 2012, we didn't check that if this happened, 98% of what Sony produces will be communicating devices. So when you think of that, you can imagine the capabilities, the multiplying capabilities that exist. Now, there is one component missing in this chain. This component for years didn't exist. But all of a sudden, this component is becoming at the heart of the empowerment of this chain. Users. Users that are now contributing to fuel this entire value chain. Who is the number one today of production of content distribution in the world? YouTube. But YouTube doesn't produce any content. You yourself are producing this content that is distributed with YouTube. So if we look at this equation existed with components that were not sharing anything, and I call it the unshared certainties. The telecom world existed with its own certainties, the TV world, the cinema world, etc. The appliance, the manufacturing world for TVs, phones existed. Now, two things are happening that are shaking this equation. On the one hand, we are seeing the cloud models for content aggregation. The iTunes, the YouTube, the Google Plays, the App Stores. This is completely disturbing and shaking the equation. And on the other hand, at the level of the users, the three screens, new devices that are allowing completely different capabilities. And this in itself is completely moving the certainty that existed from unshared certainties. We are moving to a world where we are forced to, from unshared certainties to shared uncertainties. Now just imagine this Maasai warrior or farmer at the end of the most remote area in Africa, just with a feature phone. It is estimated that this gentleman will have more communication power than President Reagan when President Reagan was the president of the most powerful nation on earth 25 years ago. Now, if even more, if we move the feature phone and replace it by a smartphone, the same gentleman will have access to more knowledge than President Clinton 15 years ago, when President Clinton was the president of the most powerful nation on earth. I am leaving you with this thought to imagine the empowerment that could exist. I am leaving you to imagine how this could profoundly transform societal parts of our lives, economical aspects, and even all the organization of our societies. This abundance model has been constructed by phases. In the phase started in 1995, where we started to go to the internet like we are going to a library. This is the time of the search engines. We go there, we are looking for an article, we're looking for more information. Then in the 2000, we started to go to the internet like we go to a shop. We started to buy airplane tickets. We started to buy goods on the internet. And then in the mid-2005, this is the era of networking with social networking. This is the era where the Facebook, etc. This, together with the development, through development of technology, of the mobility story, being able to not only carry your voice or carry just a simple text, but carry everything from your life. Today you carry with you your bank, your supermarket, your university, you carry it everywhere you go. This led to the abundance model. Now there is a big debate, because aren't we trading depth versus breadth? It's true. When I was young, we used to have, when I was a teenager, we had 4 TV channels. And this was, I mean, a lot of us in this part of the world, this is what we had. Today, you can have access to something like more than 900 TV channels just at your finger, if you are a Du customer. If you're an Etisalat customer, probably 500. So, I had to do it, sorry for that. But a question, how many of these I watch on regular basis? How many of these I watch? Full stop. 4. My kids have access as well to these 1,000 channels. How many of these they watch? 4 or 5. And the story is now, we do rely on the information coming only from our circle of social networking. We do not rely on the sources, because we believe that if we get an information coming from CNN, etc., this is the classical model. So how accurate is the information we rely on, because it's coming from? So there is a big debate in the media on reliability of information, reliability and trustworthiness of information. Now, Eric very rightly mentioned it has to enable a better tomorrow. For that, we need to acknowledge that the fact, I used to say a few years back, when I was chairing a group for the Arab world, being connected as a basic human need. And this was challenged. How dare I put this at the same level in some countries of this part of the world, in the Arab world or in North Africa, putting this at the same level of having access to decent healthcare or decent education. Today, and specifically the recent events that took place in the Arab world, show us that it is not only a basic human need, but it is as well a basic human right. Now, a big question: should we leave this model developed just by iterative adaptation, just by constant iterative learning, or there is a need for intelligent design? If you listen to the telecom companies, they will tell you, we need intelligent design because this is the way they were doing things. The ICANN, the Association for Governing the Internet, will tell you, no, let's do it through, let's leave the internet, because the internet world things happened on their own and people just put things. There is a big debate. I think that, and when I listen to some of the questions that were raised, there are concerns on security. There are concerns on control. There are concerns on, as well, protecting privacy. But on the other hand, there is a concern by the consumers on openness. There is a concern on freedom of expression, etc. So somehow the cursor will find its place. Far from me the idea of suggesting that there will be this model or that model. I think this will be an iterative learning. And last but not least, fair and ethical practices in driving this fundamental development. We need to ensure that we care. We need to ensure that we care protecting our children. We are at an age where for the first time in history of humanity, younger generation know more than older generation. And this is a major paradigm shift. 2 days back, I was listening to Nicholas Negroponte, the founder of the MIT Media Lab, and he said, in telecom, we are now in the business of education. So we need to ensure that the tools that we are putting are really driving, and this can only be a deliberate act of willingness to do better, to do good. And this is what I'm really inviting people to do. We need to ensure that this environment we're creating is fostering innovation, because innovation can happen in different ways. It can happen by necessity, under the pressure to change. It can happen by exploration, and this is an organized environment in order to discover, in order to have inquiry, but it can happen as well by serendipity. The Facebook model showed that when people own a certain capability and do something out of it, something much bigger can come out of this. Serendipity is game-changing outcomes that just happen by accidental discovery. Now, on this innovation game, where are we in this part of the world? Where is the Arab world? Where is the Arab world in this space? Of course, we like to remember, all of us, the ancient times where the Arab world was leading scientific and intellectual pursuits. But let's face it, in the modern times, what I call the Industrial Revolution time, the steam revolution era, this part of the world, we missed this period. We missed this era. We never produced, created, or developed technology. We were buyers and users of technology, and heavy buyers and heavy users of technology. And I would like, I can't help, I would like to quote two poetry corresponding, not a full poetry, just one sentence, corresponding to these two periods. In that period, a poet said, looking at the sea, if I knew that the sea is so deep, I would never sail. نزار قباني لو أني أعرف أن البحر عميق جدا ما أبحرت. The same sentence of looking, or the same reference in that period, in the Andalusi period, and maybe a coincidence that corresponded to the really the maximum of the glorious time. The same, not the same poet, of course, he couldn't, but on the same situation, a poet said, سألتها يا خير زائرة أما خشيت من الحراس في الطرق فأجابتني ودمع العين يسبقها من يركب البحر لا يخشى من الغرق. I'll translate. The beloved person told him after that she took risks. She told him, when you ride the sea, you're not afraid of drowning. I think it's a mindset. And I think that this mindset should lead us in going in the digital age and considering that this is an opportunity of transforming this part of the world, of catching up some of what we missed and being fully and entering fully in this digital age. I would like to ask a question, please keep always in your mind, we should not sit back and just watch the future happening. Speaking about this future, with your permission, I want to almost conclude by showing you Jennifer, our little girl, charming girl, years after, when she grew up and she has a family. Some people imagined what this future could be. These are not telecom people. These are not the Ericsson, the telecom operators of this world. It is just a glass company who just imagine how this future will be. This is why when I said the 3 screens and more, because be it in our work environment, home environment, on the road, in the bus stop, and the shopping experience, multiple screens, every screen, every glass is becoming part of this connectivity, of this communication experience that we're having. And even more, this is not science fiction. What you see here, there is this person called Pranav Mistry. We invited him to come. He is in the MIT Media Lab. And he demonstrated, he just pushed the buttons on his palm and made a call. So not only every glass surface, but almost every surface can become. Technology is here. It's just imagining how this technology in your life will make a change and will make you behave differently. Now, imagine the amount of data that will exist on you, the big data story. Imagine the potential threat and misuse of this data. Imagine the invasion of privacy, but imagine as well the capabilities that we can have, having every person connected. It is estimated that at the end of 2015, there will be more than 12 billion connected devices on Earth, 1.5 the total population. And I will end on an act of faith, on this promise of a brave new world. Digital age will be an enabler of positive transformation in this region. And my bet is because digital Arabia, 21st century digital Arabia, is out there. If you go to the Yahoo website, you see the sentence, there is a new master of the digital universe. you. We like to call it, we like to project ourselves, we like to call it the new universe. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.